In this episode, we're going to talk about something that always sparks a great deal of debate, and I'm talking about Fastlane. Hello, everyone. Alongside Ryan Sir, I'm Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans because that's who we are and that's who we care about. Hey, let's kick this off by thanking our Prestige members. Thank you so much, Miss Mandy, 1983, Lil Mac, 21, Brian Hauser, 330T, Logan Lipper, Aaron Bort, Jacob Fix, Damon Barnes, Stephen Horneck, Eric Grau, Ian Crawford, Dustin Jackson, Songster Smeeku, Dakota Cole, and Lack Ray. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the Prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the videos, exclusive content, exclusive live streams, and some tiers even get some free stuff. So hit that link in the description if you want to be involved.
Ryan, one of the things that people interested in visiting Kings Island will reach out to me about is Fastlane. Mm-hmm. They want to know, is it worth it? You know, I'm coming on a Tuesday. Some will say I'm coming on a Saturday. Should I get Fastlane? What are your thoughts? So it's something that always creates a lot of discussion, controversy. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Does it ruin somebody's visit? Is it saving your Kings Island day? Allowing you to make the most of your day. So really, have you used Fastlane, Ryan? And if so, what are your thoughts on it?
I've used it several times at both Fastlane itself, that product at Kings Island and Cedar Point. I've used it several times. I've used it at, the Genie Plus at Disney, and I've used the Express at Universal as well. Probably other stuff peppered in there, but that's what comes to mind. So yeah, I'm very familiar with these skip the line programs that are available.
Now at Kings Island, you have more than 20 rides that are available that you can use Fastlane for. But I really think, Cedar Point, I think no matter what day you go, and if it's the only time you're going to be there, Fastlane will allow you to make the most of your day. It certainly would be worth the price, whatever that price may be. And it is kind of tiered depending on the day of the week, the time of the year that you go. At Kings Island, a lot of days that I think if you bought Fastlane and you went on a Monday or Tuesday, maybe a Wednesday, you probably would think, why did I do this? Because the ride might only be, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, with the wait time. So I think you have to kind of look at what day of the week that you're going to go. But if you're coming from out of town and it's going to only be, the one time that you go to Kings Island, maybe you're only going twice, certainly, look at Fastlane if you're going on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. If you're going in the fall on a Saturday, absolutely. It's definitely worth whatever the price might be at that point in time. It's a good product. I think, when people get upset, they talk about, that it's something that, it favors the wealthy. You hear that a lot, caters to the rich. What about those of us that have been waiting in line, for 45 minutes? I saw this person go through 2 or 3 times. And right, I always looked at it, and I was with Kings Island when it was first introduced, but I always looked at it as kind of, like getting a flight, going to a sporting event. You have that option. Do you want to sit in first class? Where do you want to sit on the plane? Where do you want to sit at the stadium? Do you want to sit in the area there? Get food and that brought to you. So I always looked at it. It's a premium experience. It's not something that's being forced on you. So if you want to upgrade, you want to, elevate the experience, make the most of your day, it's there just like all those other things that are out there in the world that you can do to upgrade your experience. So I don't really buy that it's, caters to the rich or anything like that. I mean, it's not exclusive to the parks. You see that everywhere, that you go, that you can elevate your experience with different things. So I don't have that kind of sentiment about it. What about you? Do you think that it's something that the parks don't need?
I mean, it prints money, so I'm in favor of it.
Yeah. So it does allow for a lot of those upgrades that you see, the infrastructure, kind of projects and that, it's not financing a $30 million roller coaster, but things like you see on International Street, with some of the buildings and that, getting refurbished, maybe a new restaurant goes in or something. It helps with those kind of things.
So I remember when it first came out, and it was early Cedar Fair, probably 2007 or so. No, it was after
2012,
Diamondback.
2012,
Really?
late mid to late summer that year.
Well, I remember on KIC somebody made the argument. They're like, "How am I supposed to explain to my kids that somebody whose dad makes more money than
Mhm.
me is able to skip the line while they have to wait?" And somebody made the perfect response. They were like, "Tell them the same thing they ask when they ask you why somebody's sitting in the front row of a football game and you are 50 rows back." Be
Yeah,
like, just
or
some
you're on a
people
plane.
have,
You're sitting
yeah,
in third class. And
exactly. I'm personally in cargo. But
I remember when it first came out. It was not long after Matt We Met came on board as the CEO of Cedar Fair. Took over for Dick Kenzel. Kings Island was a trial park for it,
mm,
and right away a lot of the guests enjoyed it, took advantage of it. It was a little bit hard for the associates, trying to do that in the middle of summer, trying to introduce that. There wasn't really the infrastructure there with the different, avenues, how we were going to get guests on the rides quicker. So at first you were coming up the exit of rides to get
yeah,
on.
I remember that.
Then it was how many people, fast lane versus the regular, the standby line, how do you divide that all up? And then there was some inconsistencies there where sometimes it was 2 trains of standby and then we were going to do a full train of fast lane. Then it was 8 fast lanes and, you know, 22 people that don't have fast lane, on a ride. It was just things like that. So trying to get the right formula took a little bit of time, but it was something that, and we found quickly that the market was there for it. That people, they wanted a premium experience. They wanted to be able to make the most of their day, and it quickly kind of got integrated across, for the next year, 2013, at the other legacy Cedar Fair parks. Then you started seeing the Six Flags park. Everybody started doing it. So something that's certainly going to be there to stay. But and there's always going to be that argument. There's always going to be somebody that says, like you said on KI Central, how do I explain to my kid that they get to go, they get this product and we don't. But it is just like anything else, like you said, why is somebody sitting front row at the football game and we're, 50 rows back? Why are we in the back of the plane? Why did we not get, the club seats at a ball game and we're having food brought to us? So there's just, all those kind of things. And, people do want a premium experience and they're willing to pay for it.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, it's the parks are in the business of service, and that's a service that's high high value, low cost. Let's put it that way. So it is what it is. So I'm in favor of it. Again, I've used it before. I don't have season long or anything like that, but I haven't used it in years though. The other one I've used is Dollywood, by the way. Dollywood used to have this thing called Q to Q, where
Yes.
it would give you a return time, but it was like you can come back in 3 minutes, so they would just let you go.
Yeah,
Now
I've used that there. I mean, and it allowed me again to make the most of my day. There were rides I would not have been able to do at Dollywood without it.
yeah, and the thing that's interesting that I'm shocked they haven't done yet is that now that they got the scanner. So it used to be you just had a wristband. They changed the color of the wristband every day. This is like Kings Island. Now they have those scanners, so they scan the wristband for validity. Well, that's great. Why aren't you selling like one time through, like one time for each ride? You can ride the Beast once, you can ride Diamondback once, and so on. Sell that at a discount like Dollywood does, because I feel like you could sell a lot more of those and make it back in scale. And Aaron and I stayed at the Dreammore Resort, and you got free skip the line, whatever they call it there for that. But it was one time through, and I had the option for $30 to upgrade and stuff, and I almost did it, and I decided not to.
Time
Or I
Saver
just
was the name of one at one time there. Time Saver.
I think it's still Time Saver. They just don't have the return time anymore. Or no, it was Q to Q before. Now it's Time Saver. So I remember the agreement I had with her was, we'll do all the rides, and then if we want to do Mystery Mine again a couple times, like I'll just pay to upgrade it. It's fine, but let's just burn through this. So we went through, and it took like, we paced ourselves because we weren't like marathoning the rides. We'd ride some stuff, look in the shops. We ended up taking up the whole day just riding everything one time through. So I feel like there's a low perceived value, but a really high value to being able to ride everything once, especially if you're, just visiting the park one time.
Yeah, I think, especially when you have all the different shows going on at Kings Island, it allows you that opportunity to uh, not be spending most of your day trying to get in, a couple of rides on the Beast, Banshee, Diamondback, Orion, Mystic Timbers. You can do all those rides and still get an opportunity to see the show, still get an opportunity to shop, still get an opportunity to eat, your meals, relax, don't feel we got to hurry up and eat. We got to go ride this now. It just allows you to really kind of enjoy the park at your own pace and not miss out on anything.
Yeah. Now, one thing, the kind of like the elephant in the room is that sometimes the line for Fastlane gets long too.
It can, yes.
Maverick at Cedar Point will have 45 minutes to an hour wait sometimes for Fastlane, which does save you time because that means the standby line's like 2 hours. But I finally did get to ride the Beast, by the way. We can talk about that when we go live. But I went to the park on Friday or Saturday, and my friends and I were like, "Oh, we haven't ridden the Beast yet. Let's buy the single-use fast lane." But the single-use fast lane was 35 minutes, and it's like,
Right.
well, if the ride's an hour, why would I spend $15 to save 25 minutes? So we ended up just waiting.
Yeah. Now there was a cap, supposedly, on Fastlane at all the parks, based on what the percentage the projection for the attendance and everything was that day. I do know there were times Kings Island did hit that capacity,
I
and they cut
remember
it off.
seeing signs up saying Fastlane is sold out for today.
Yeah, because they still wanted to make sure that, was fair for all the guests and you didn't, oversell it to where it wasn't a value for the fast lane, guests, that you had too many of them. So you always want to have that kind of a balance too. So I'm glad that they do that. And there is kind of that point in the day where, we've kind of sold as many of these as we're going to be able to do. Now during weekdays, they don't really, they're not going to hit that many of them anyway.
Right.
You don't worry about that. But on those Saturdays, especially in the fall, in October on those Saturdays, if you really want to make the most of your day, you have to have fast lane or you're not going to get a lot of rides in.
You get the best value too, because you show up, you get there at 11 a.m. and they're open till allegedly midnight, and you get fast lane for the whole day. Unless do you remember at Carowinds when the people with the season long fast lane were told, because remember Carowinds, like they don't charge for Scarowinds, but they like used to close the park and reopen it. Mm-hmm. And they were telling people with season long fast lane that they have to choose either to have fast lane in the morning or at night. That was dirty, but I think they reversed it pretty quickly.
Yeah, you had to, because you paid for it. So if you're in the park at either one of those events, you should have been able to use it. So it is good that they reversed it.
They reversed it because of backlash, not because it was the right thing to do. Well, I guess ultimately there was backlash because it was not the right thing to do. So it's kind of a cat and mouse kind of thing.
That's right.
But yeah, so I will tell you this: I will not do Cedar Point without Fastlane.
It's hard to. Unless you just have certain things that you want to do, you're not. You don't have to ride 12 to 14 different roller coasters. You don't have to do all the flat rides. If you're just going and you kind of have a plan, and I want to make sure, say like for me, when I go, I want to make sure I do Millennium Force. I want to make sure I do Maverick. I want to make sure I ride the train. I want to make sure I have a couple of meals. I want to ride the Sky Ride. So I kind of have it, 10 things that I want to do, and I can do it without Fastlane. I'm not looking to marathon anything. I have certain coasters that I want to make sure I get, that's on my list, like Millennium Force. I have to do that, but I don't have to do every single one of them every time I visit. If I have a day where I do want to do that, or I'm with somebody and it's the only time they're going to be there that summer, then absolutely I'm going to buy Fastlane, and, and whatever they want to ride, I'm just going to go along and ride whatever they want to during the day.
Yeah. So I wouldn't do it. If you want to ride Maverick, you have to have Fastlane.
Unless you go to it first in the morning.
Even at that, it doesn't open on time. So like I've waited like an hour first thing in the morning because it opened 15 minutes late, and by the time it opened, there was a line stretching like all the way past Snake River Falls and all that stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, a
Anyway,
lot of times my trips when I go, Ryan, to Cedar Point, it's I go down, I'll ride Iron Dragon, then I'll go across the way and ride Millennium Force, and I'll make my way back to Maverick, and then I've got kind of the coasters that I definitely wanted to hit in there, and then I'll kind of watch some shows, eat a couple meals, get on Blue Streak, ride the Sky Ride, take some photos and that, and I had a good day. I didn't feel like rushed or anything like that, but that's only because I've been there a lot. But if it was my one time, I'm absolutely getting Fastlane. And same thing with Kings Island. If I was visiting on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I was only going to be visiting the park that time, my only visit of the year, I'm certainly looking at Fastlane to make sure that I make the most of my day, and that I don't feel like I'm spending most of my day waiting in line. I'm able to experience the entire park because I had Fastlane.
so listeners, now's your time. Hit the comments. Are you for or against Fastlane? Have you ever used it? How often do you use it? Do you have season long? Do you see the value in it? Put in the description, not in the description, in the comments. We'd love to hear it. Don, let's move on to a segment we like to call Buy or Sell. So, Don, buy or sell? As Six Flags continues cutting back in ways that could diminish the guest experience, Coca-Cola will opt out of its contract, leaving RC Cola as a soft drink provider across the entire park portfolio. RC Cola.
Well, I would not mind that. I grew up on RC Cola, so I would not mind that being the soft drink that was at all of the Six Flags parks. But no, I'm going to sell Coke's. Coca-Cola. They're not going to opt out of their contract. They're still, they're getting their product in front of millions of people every year. So no.
Coke would be incredibly crazy to sell. It's probably very lucrative for both sides. Coke puts a bunch of money into it. Kings Island puts a bunch of money into it. They both make a bunch of money off of it. So that is the most definite sell. But RC coming there would be hilarious.
That is the easiest sell that I think we've had of all the buy and sells that we've done.
Well, but you got to remember, if they asked a different question like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, if they said, is it going to be Coke or Pepsi? That was a real question because Cedar Fair had Pepsi, Paramount had Coke. And
right.
My understanding is that Cedar Fair had a big falling out with Coke when they switched to Pepsi. So it was very questionable as to which one it was going to be. But yeah, RC was never in the running. But they might have free K-Cups because they're the same company. And that would be kind of nice for the...
Yeah, I can tell you that they did have a meeting with RC when the Coke contract came up a few years ago, because they met with everybody.
Oh yeah.
You had to have that leverage back against Coke to say, we've got, if you don't do this, we've got that. But like I said, I wouldn't have minded it because I grew up with it, but it's always been Coca-Cola at Kings Island. I think it would kind of, it would feel odd to have Pepsi or RC or anybody else there.
And it's, and Six Flags legacy is Coke. It's just not going to happen. So sell. Let's move on to some theme park headline news.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So The Little Mermaid is back. Got a graphic for that. Little Mermaid is back on stage at Walt Disney World. The Little Mermaid, a musical adventure, is back in the Animation Courtyard Theater, where Voyage of the Little Mermaid played for 28 years before closing during the pandemic lockdown. Like its predecessor, the new production is also a book report retelling of the 1989 animated film. Yet Disney has enhanced its show with digital media effects to accompany live actors and puppetry. The roles of Ariel and Eric are played by live performers on stage, with puppeteers taking on Flounder, Sebastian, and in some scenes, Ursula. So I've been looking forward to this. It's opened a year and a half late, of course. But I really want to see this. It technically, it's in rehearsals now, live rehearsals in front of, you can see it now, but I think it opens June 6th or 7th officially.
I am excited about it too. Want to see it. That was my favorite show, or my daughter's favorite show, when she was growing up. So we're both looking forward to that. Our Disney visit will not be until a year from actually today of this recording that we will be there. So looking forward to it. I like, how they've made these little changes, to the show. I think it's definitely enhanced. It's definitely gonna be better than it ever was before. And now future generations are going to be able to love that show as much as my daughter did and I did.
Yeah, and now not in the show notes, but also of note, the Villains Unfairly Ever After also opened. And that's it used to be the Cars show back behind Rock and Roller Coaster.
Yeah.
That opened, and that's also getting some pretty solid reviews too. So two very, very much needed high capacity things at Disney's Hollywood Studios, both worth the visit. I can't wait for it. Once I see it, we'll talk about it on the show. All right. We'll be right back with the listener questions. First listener question, Jacob from Cambridge, Ohio. He said, do you guys ever have guests on your videos? Also, are you planning on attending the Food and Wine Festival?
We have had some guests. We hope to have some more guests. We've had things like, Kings Island fan roundtable discussions, things like that. So we'll do some more things in that respect. And I think we're both planning to experience the Food and Wine Festival, see what it's about this year, what's been changed. And we'll come back and update everybody on what our thoughts were with that.
Yeah, Jaybird1 from Whereabouts Unknown. He said, hey guys, big fan of the show. I was wondering if there's ever been any celebrities that you know of that have been to Kings Island.
Lots of them.
Yeah.
And some of them during my years working there, I helped escort them around the park. There's obviously the Brady Bunch, actors that have come. I know that, a lot of the Reds players have gone, Bengal players have gone, musicians have gone, different actors have come in and wanted to experience Kings Island. So, yeah, I mean, there's been, lots of them. Scarlett Johansson, my last year, I think she was there, or my second to last year. She was a big fan of the park. Anytime that she passed through, tennis players, if the dates align and the park's not closed during the week when they're playing in the tournament, they would come over. Serena Williams, she was somebody that I had to walk around the park. I will not confirm nor deny if that was a good time, but a little demanding there. But I mean, it's there's almost throughout the season you're going to see several different times where there's going to be different celebrities in that there because whatever their industry might be that they are celebrities in. I mean, they love amusement parks, roller coasters just as much as we all do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, you and I have been to the park and we run Tower Topics. So there's that. All right. John from Hillsboro, Ohio said, now that the communications rep who disliked everything about Tower Topics is no longer with the company, does that open the door for park staff to finally appear on the show, or at least feel free to say hello if you see them in the park?
Being on the show, no, doesn't change anything. There's still going to be the, you guys don't go on with them, kind of mentality there. We've talked about it. We run it into the ground. We're not going to go too much more in detail about that. And that's fine. The show has never been reliant on having anybody from Kings Island on the show. But in terms of being able to say hello in that, I think that, that'll loosen up a little bit where, they won't be afraid that somebody might see them engaging with either one of us on the midway or something. And then, have to hear about it later. Like, what were you guys talking about? Why were you talking to them? That kind of thing, that they won't feel that kind of, I guess, pressure, or hear about it if they said hello to us.
I can confirm that over the weekend, there were more than a few people that work at Kings Island that I know of very specifically have been talked to about don't associate with them. And, if we find out you tell them anything, you're going to get fired or whatever. Like, and some of those people came up and just openly talked to me. What'd you think about this? What'd you think about that? So I think that they know that, there's going to be pettiness there. There's still, again, the company had lost a few people that are good, but it also had an enema. Obviously, one person that we know of was part of the enema, that reaching that stuff out of the company.
Yeah.
But there's still a little bit of a clog, and until there are certain vast majority of people that kind of like are a little bit short-sighted in terms of working with us because we don't follow the content creator policy, because we're not positive about everything that the park does or whatever, there's going to be issues. But the fortunate thing is the show has grown a lot in the past year and a half, 2 years. We've never had a relationship with the park. We've never really had anybody from the park on the show. That's never been an issue. So if they want to come on, that's fine, because that would work to their advantage. If they were going to come on, it would be, they'd have somebody from food coming on talking about a new item, or somebody from entertainment coming on talking about a new show. That would serve them, not us. We don't need them. They need us a lot more than we need them. So,
yeah, but I don't think that, that policy, or the mandate that you don't go on with them, I don't think that changes, because there were some changes, with some of the different cuts that they've made. That's not going to be any different. But I do think, like Ryan said, that there's a more, they're not afraid to be seen saying hello.
And if you want to send in your listener questions, send them to Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com. Your name, the city you're from, and your question, comment, concern. Put question for TT in the subject so he can find it more easily. Don't want to email Don? Send us a direct message on our X, Tower_Topics. While you're there, hit that follow button if you're not yet. Don, tell them about the t-shirts.
Tower Topics t-shirts. They're available, just $22. That includes shipping. They come in a wicked green color, any size that you need. If you're interested in one, the same address as Ryan just gave, you can order them there, and we'll send you the QR code. And once the transaction goes through, it only takes a matter of days to get your shirt. Not as fast as Amazon, but still pretty quick.
Pretty quick. And we have stickers.
We do. We have stickers. I'm excited about this product, Ryan. 4.5 inch by 3 inch. Those are $5 each. That includes the shipping. It's ideal for things like tumblers and water bottles. And then 6.5 inch by 4 inch. Those are $7 each. And these are great for car windows. So if you want one of those, same address, and we'll send you the QR code. And, some people recently, they've been buying the t-shirt and the stickers. We appreciate that.
Great combo. Yeah. All right. Hey, I'm Ryan Sirlong with Don Helbig. This is Tower Topics. Buy your Silver Pass.